Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military with Cary Harrison.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what happens when you're a celebrity and someone falsely accuses you of sexual abuse, and it's from a minor in another state, and then the DA decides to join in the fun. We've talked a lot about AI, about deep fakes, a brave new world that mirrors the real world, except that mirror is not a real one. But as we're in Los Angeles, the following interview is going to serve as a cautionary tale for celebrities who navigate the perils of fame in an age where digital manipulation can wreak havoc on their lives and livelihoods. And let's remember, there's no editor-in-chief of the internet. There's no adult supervision, no accountability until you get caught, and then you'd better lawyer up and cross your fingers. A recent headline in London's Daily Mail covers a story here in Los Angeles that has taken on international proportions. And one of my next guests is actor Joseph Gatt, who you may know from the Game of Thrones, the Star Trek theatrical movies, my favorite things in the world, and tons of TV series and more. And he's faced a nightmarish ordeal when he was targeted by false accusations from a 19-year-old girl, along with an aggressive LA prosecutor and the DA's office, which literally stormed Mr. Gatt's apartment with SWAT team-flavored, helmeted, gun-bearing stormtroopers and arrested him in front of the neighbors. This girl, located in another state outside California, falsely accused Mr. Gatt of sexual abuse, despite never having met him. Did I say that? Never having met him or received any abusive messages from him at all. And this is what led to his arrest for alleged contact with a minor for a sexual offense. Didn't happen. But here's where it took a turn. Recently in court, Joseph Gatt's legal team presented 180 pages of evidence that proved the obsessed girl's complete whole-cloth fabrication of all texts, of all Instagrams and Snapchat messages, all of them false. If anything, this case highlights what our guests view as troubling incompetence by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, as this major market DA failed to detect the girl's obvious fraud. Although the court was forced to dismiss the charges without prejudice, it does leave open the possibility of refiling the same charges. But at the heart of this is the unique American standard of the presumption of innocence. Yep, that is enshrined in our Constitution, the presumption of innocence, which was both bypassed and ignored for many. And this will underscore the need for reform within the justice system, most likely. As a celebrity whose livelihood depends on public opinion and maintaining a positive public image, Mr. Gatt has endured 2 years of harassment and work stagnation, including the loss of career opportunities and personal hardships. And it extends to his girlfriend, Mercy Malik, who is a public persona and has also been wrongly jeopardized. In full disclosure, Mercy Malik, a Stanford graduate and a first-rate journalist, used to co-host several different shows I did before COVID, even here on this station. And she was remarkable then, and quite coincidentally has re-entered my orbit through this international news story. And now, this does remain a cautionary tale, because if you are out there, you're in LA, you're an actor, you want to be, you are already, you're in anything here, and you're in the public, it's a cautionary tale because you're in the public eye, as trolls and even AI fabricate evidence and manipulate social media interactions, exploiting people's celebrity status. We're now joined by Joseph Gatt, recognized from Thor, Star Trek, Black Adam, and Dumbo, to Banshee and Ray Donovan. His bio points out, I'm not making this up, that he's totally bald due to the condition known as alopecia alopecia, we all know it as alopecia, which he's had since he was 12, and it's a look that a lot of men opt in for these days, by the way. Together with his imposing physique, he's definitely hard to miss. When you subscribe to our free newsletter at rethinkingheroes.com, you're going to get the full video version of this broadcast. He's joined by his girlfriend, Mercy Malik, an actor, a musician, a writer, and an award-winning filmmaker who's been working in the TV and film industry since she was 8. a Stanford graduate with degrees in political science and communication, and many in LA might know her as a popular yoga and aerial acrobatics coach and choreographer. And if you hang out at Crunch, as I did, I always saw her there. The two are joined by their forensic investigator, Jeff Fischbach, a trial strategist who helps oversee the multi-billion-dollar budget of the nation's second largest school district. Guess where that is? Yep, you're sitting in it right now, LAUSD. Mr. Fischbach is frequently engaged as a litigation consultant and forensic examiner, offering expert advice and oversight on matters involving intellectual property, computers, information systems, satellite, electronic tracking, and wireless communications technologies. But his real passion is for solving crimes. That's why he's there today. He's currently preparing witnesses for an ongoing federal trial involving the future of cryptocurrency in the United States of America, e pluribus unum. Hence today's show, In This Brave New World. Let's start. Hell, that was quite an introduction, wasn't it? I hope I wrote that.
Well done, Harrison. Well done. Thank you.
Well done.
We are honored.
Let's start with Joseph Gatt and Mercy Malek. Can you walk us through the night you were ambushed by the police?
Oh my goodness. I think I still suffer PTSD from that situation. I just remember firstly hearing extremely loud banging at the door, and I just leapt up. I grabbed the Glock from the side of the bed thinking somebody was trying to break into the house because the banging was it sounded like somebody was trying to knock down the front door. I ran to the front door and I shouted to Mercy. I think I shouted, "Call the police." Ironically, ran to the front door, looked through the peephole and couldn't really see anything, and then noticed that there was a very bright light shining through the front window of the house. And I was like, this is interesting. This doesn't feel like a robbery anymore. And I peeked through the front window and could see the SWAT team vehicles outside, police, the light shining through the window. And
The entire block was a line of blacked out SUVs as far as the eye could see.
It was one of those, how do you call it? Come to Jesus moments. It was like, what is going on here?
Or start to believe in Jesus moments.
Yeah, something like that. By this time, Mercy had come into the living room, and I went back to Mercy immediately, obviously, put the Glock away, disarmed it, and made it safe and put it away, and told Mercy what was going on, and immediately tried to contact my attorney, who at that time was a different attorney based up in Washington State. Obviously, I wasn't going to get him at 4:30 in the morning. Had no idea what to do.
Because your rights are unclear in our society right now. And quite frankly, I thought we'd been swatted. I couldn't think of any other reason that a block full of riot gear, rifle bearing law enforcement would be at our door. It made no sense whatsoever. It looked like they were coming to arrest a huge group of violent, dangerous people. So in this day and age, when swatting is so common, that was the only thing that I could think of at 4 a.m. could be occurring. So at that point, it just became us trying to figure out how to not become a statistic of violence, as so frequently happens in these situations. Fortunately, it was not a no-knock warrant. It was a knock warrant. So we at least had a moment to compose ourselves and decide how to most safely open the door and try to comply as completely as we could for the greatest safety for all concerned.
So here you are, asleep, as mammals tend to do when the sun goes down at a certain point, unaware that anything is going on in the background, living your lives, going to auditions, acting, being in movies, on TV, both of you doing what you do. And then suddenly you get a knock on the door, you open it up, and there is basically a scene from Star Wars happening live in your hallway. They come in, I imagine they handcuffed you, Joseph Gatt, probably paraded you in front of the neighbors. LA is a large metropolitan area. If you don't live there, there are lots of neighbors. You may never meet them, but they'll meet you through the window. And so all of this is quite public, and you get taken away. Mercy Malek, I imagine you were detained for just being alive and knowing Joseph Gatt, and you probably still don't fully understand what has happened yet. Like, what is this?
Idea. They wouldn't tell us why they were there. They refused to show us the search warrant for 3 hours. I asked at least a dozen times, may I see the search warrant, please? They said, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, every moment, Detective Amarantos was smiling and telling us about his imminent retirement from the force. And we're just like, can you actually tell us why you're here? Oh, you know why we're here. I'm like, no, actually, we don't. Can you please tell us? Do you have a search warrant? Oh, we have a search warrant. We'll get to that. No, can you show us? You've just dragged us into the street and you're in our home. Yeah, they wouldn't. If people out there think that you need to be shown a search warrant and for police to come into your home, they're wrong. And if people think that you need to be Mirandized before you're arrested, we're also wrong about that.
Which technically, if you have not been Mirandized, technically it didn't happen. It has to go away. It has to be dismissed. It has to be thrown away because it's improper. But apparently the police can do whatever they want improperly. And there you are, screwed.
Right.
Well, if you have no access in the moment, the only access or knowledge you have regarding, unless you're an attorney, regarding what to do in situations like this is what you see on TV or the characters you played on TV. And when you cannot get hold of anyone at that time, which I think is partially the reason why they came at 4:30 in the morning, you just don't know what to do, and they can threaten you, which they did. They threatened us about what they would do if we didn't comply with regards to giving them, the passwords to our equipment, giving them the password to my safe. It was very frightening. We just did not know what to do.
And ironically, the detective kept saying to us, you always deserve an explanation. You always deserve an explanation. But the explanation was not given. And the always was really, it was really piquant because no, it's not always. We have not been in this situation before. We really felt like we were being treated like people who very frequently had SWAT raids in their home at 4 a.m. You always deserve an explanation. And yet the explanation never materialized.
Yes, as one does when that
But
happens.
But it was all made completely okay because the DDA who was there at the search warrant execution proceeded to tell us about her private life and her pygmy goats. So that made everything okay,
That
being incredibly sarcastic.
That's a tangent. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that later.
If I may, we should probably be clear on one thing since you gave
I was just
really...
going to jump to you, Jeff Fishbach, so that we can get a couple of legal details here. Also important to point out that this got resolved, at least to a certain degree. So we're not talking to two folks who are advocating for themselves as if there hasn't been a decision made. You guys are free and clear, at least as of the moment, to some degree, right, Jeff?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. At this moment, other than all the damage in their lives, it's as if it never happened. They are as much at risk here forward as you or I or anybody else. Other than I guess they've got a DA who maybe would like to see if he could find anything else to be a little less embarrassed about how the case turned out. So obviously they're under that eye. But I wanted to clear up one thing just because I appreciated the lesson for the listeners in how Miranda works. But one important thing to know about them is, normally we would look for those opportunities. Anything that was said pre-Miranda. Joe and Mercy really did nothing wrong. I said Joe and Mercy, they were known by their last name for me, but now it's been a couple of years, so I know them really well. They didn't do anything wrong. If there was any mistake that I would tell them not to do again, they were probably overly accommodating to the police. They gave up rights that they didn't have to give up. But otherwise, there was nothing from that search. In fact, it was very interesting because one of the first conversations that I had with Joe's attorney was looking, as we typically do in cases, is there anything that we can get rid of? Is any mistakes that the police made that we can get rid of? And we found them. We found plenty of them. But the interesting thing was there was no need to get rid of anything. They didn't find anything. They searched the house, very much so because Joe and Mercy provided them with access to everything that they would need access to. And they didn't find anything. So there was nothing to challenge. We might have seen some screw-ups from the search, but we didn't need to use them because there were no findings from the search. They checked his computer. It was completely empty. They searched his phone. Not empty. it was a normal computer. There was no evidence of a crime. There was nothing on his phone. The only thing that they were able to find, thanks to Joe's accommodation, was they opened up his gun safe and made the claim that he had a gun that was illegally configured, for which, by the way, we are still, and this might be one of the reasons why the case went away and may not come back, we are still trying to get video of the search inside the house to find out exactly what was going on with that gun that we haven't seen, but we haven't been able to get any inside footage. It's as if the police officers didn't have body cameras at all.
Well, can't have it all now, can we? Pardon me. Pardon the
Or
sarcasm.
in this case, any of it.
Yes. I'm just going to reset because people might have joined us coming in and go. People drive as they do, get in and out of cars. We're talking right now to Joseph Gatt, known for Thor, for Star Trek, and an assortment of TV series and video games, the victim of a fraudulent claim of an online dalliance with a minor, leading to destruction of his popular career. He's joined by his partner, Mercy Malik, a multi-talented actor and fitness and dance coach. Alongside them is forensic investigator Jeff Fishbach, a trial strategist with expertise in technology and solving crimes, who's currently involved in a major court case regarding the future of cryptocurrency. You can subscribe to our newsletter at rethinkingheroes.com for the full video of this program. And this is important because if you're alive today during these modern times and you're in LA and you have any kind of public face, you may encounter this kind of problem.
Listen, while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. rethinkingheroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend, reminding you to sign up for our free newsletter. It's our favorite price, isn't it? Free, unlike your donation, which is still free if you break it down. Go to rethinkingheroes.com, rethinkingheroes.com, sign up for the free newsletter. You're going to get a video of this entire broadcast. You're going to be able to see people's expressions and reactions, what we're talking about, and really absorb it in a different way. There's a world of people who go beyond audio. We do that. We're modern folks here, and we go to every length for you. So go to rethinkingheroes.com, sign up for our free Rethinking Heroes newsletter. You're going to get this. I'm going to reintroduce, we're talking to Joseph Gatt, known for Thor, for Star Trek, for an assortment of TV series, video games. He's a big guy. You'll recognize him the second you see him. But he's also the victim of a fraudulent claim of an online dalliance with a minor, leading to destruction of his popular career. He's been joined by his partner, Mercy Malik, multi-talented actor, fitness, dance coach. Alongside them, forensic investigator Jeff Fishbach, trial strategist with expertise in technology and solving crimes, working right now on a cryptocurrency case, a federal case in Washington, D.C., which is where he's sitting. And of course, Joseph Gatt and Mercy Malik are sitting in Los Angeles right now. Let's talk for just a second, you guys, about being restricted from social media due to your bail stipulations. So not only do you get arrested without being told why, not only are all your rights violated, but then you're told to shut up. How did this impact your ability to communicate with your supporters who would have supported you had they been able to, had they known?
Yeah, it was a really difficult situation, Harrison, simply because I could see messages coming in. It was really lovely and overwhelming, the amount of support that we were getting, both in person and online, but I couldn't respond to any of it. I felt like I had been gagged because, as we all know, social media has become, for everyone, not just celebrities, it's our window to the world, to communicating with the world. And for celebrities especially, it's a big deal because it's about how we go about letting fans and the public know what we're doing, what's happening with us, how we feel about things, and about communicating regarding work. Almost 90% of work stuff is garnered through social media. So all of that was taken away. And I almost feel like I need to apologize to people for not having that access and being able to tell people what has been going on regarding the situation.
It was also somewhat crippling to his personal relationships because in this day and age, a lot of people communicate via Instagram Messenger rather than texting someone, etc. So there are people that we are just now finding out 2 years later, we're attempting to support him and support us that he couldn't access those messages because it was technically social media, yet it was the main way that he communicated with friends that he knew well, or people from around the world. It was, it had far-reaching consequences.
I'm going to put myself in fan shoes in a moment. I admittedly and openly and publicly will declare I'm a Star Trek fan. I like Star Wars too. So I know I saw the guys in the corner over there going, yeah, but there's, no, I like them both, you see. But I grew up with Captain Kirk first. Let's just be clear on that. So I'm a big Star Trek fan. I've seen you, Joe, in the theatrical releases of the various Star Trek movies. I've seen you on Game of Thrones, probably heard you on video games. Who knows? So I'm a fan. I'm just built in. There we are. Boom, done. That said, all I know is what I read in the newspapers, but I get no reaction. I can't hear from you. Well, what's your side? So we go a couple of years without what's your side, and we never know. So therefore, by your silence, we might conclude you agree. And I think that's the trickery of blocking your voices. Maybe Jeff Fishbach can speak about that a little bit, because if we don't hear back, well, it must be true.
Yeah, no, we're dealing with that here in DC as well, where we are actually under a gag order requested by the government and signed by the court. So it's not unusual. It is a tactic exactly as you've described. Also, I want to make it clear, you might have recognized Joe Gatt. I actually had no idea who he was prior to the case. I had to Google him, what his attorney called. So I didn't know either of them. I'm very happy to.
But you've upgraded now. You've
I
gone
have
from coach
upgraded.
to extra legroom.
I took the backwards approach. I became a fan by actually getting to know the real Joe and Mercy instead of their televised versions. I still haven't seen either of them in anything yet. I just haven't had time to look. But maybe one day we'll binge and I'll do a Joe and Mercy marathon one day. But yes, this is a real tactic to restrict speaking. It is a strategic operation. There's no question that even here, as I sit here, I don't know, 3 miles away from the courthouse right now, that in all likelihood they will be tuning in to see if I broke the gag order on this case. They do make a big deal. As we left Joe's case, it was made very, very clear to me that there could be these sort of unidentified consequences for revealing too many things about the case, and that it supports the government's narrative by doing that. If we can't get out there and demonstrate to people that there is a real case, that there are explanations, or in this case, no explanations. That was the more difficult part. Was even had anyone been able to speak up, either Joe or Mercy or me on their behalf or their attorney, there wasn't much to say other than from day one, even before the evidence that we waited 21 months to receive. My position in the case was there was no case. The reason that we had to work so hard was really to get this moment to where we really are right now, because for their case, especially for Joe, there's a real difference. So I worked for I wish I could name them, really a couple of really good individuals that I worked for prior to Joe on bigger cases. I worked for a lot of people simultaneously, but two notable cases where they were in similar circumstances. But one was a former professional basketball player who had kind of gone under the radar anyway, was just in private life. The other one was a doctor in Colorado. And what had happened was it was for them, it suited them that there wasn't a lot of press. There wasn't a lot of news. Most people didn't know. They could go about their lives. People were wondering why they weren't doing certain things. But in Joe's case, it was really not just important to get out there and get the message known, but what he had pushed me from day one was that it wasn't sufficient for us to go make the argument that the police did their investigation, searched his home, confiscated things from their home, searched his computer, took his phone, searched their online personas and filed warrants and subpoenas to get evidence against them, and still came up with nothing other than photographs of text messages that the individual who made the allegations provided to police. But that's it. There were just photographs of a phone. And my position normally in a case would be that's not sufficient. We should just have them dismiss it. And one of the reasons that this did in fact drag out, not to put blame on Joe, but one very important thing for him was that if it got dropped, his career was really over. If it just got dropped 2 years ago, it would appear to the public as though they just couldn't make a case against a celebrity. And he really pushed me for months and months and months, even as I warned him, we need to be careful what we ask for. We might be sorry. He pushed me to get everything. And I asked from the beginning, roughly 20 months ago, to get a copy of the Instagram messages from the accuser and from Joe, to get a copy of the cell phones that she was using. We had to fight to get a copy of her iCloud account because we were told that her cell phone was gone. Somehow she went to police and a case was filed, and yet she didn't have a phone to produce to them to prove forensically that the conversations had ever happened. Instead, her family members supplied a photograph of screens. And so from that, like I said, this is a case I think we probably could have ended a long time ago were it not for the fact that ending it that way would have also ended his career.
I'm going to jump in here and just reintroduce you. You're hearing the voice of Jeff Fischbach. He's a trial investigator or trial strategist with expertise in technology and solving crimes, currently involved in a major court case regarding the future of cryptocurrency. But here today, talking about Joseph Gatt, an actor known for Thor and Star Trek, TV series, video games, along with his partner, Mercy Malik. She's an actor, multi-talented fitness dance coach. Both of them have been in a kind of compression in their careers because the accusations were made. They were made publicly. This is an international, global story, which is how it came to my attention. That's why we have them on today, because they're local here in Los Angeles. Local. It makes it sound like we're in Hooterville, but you know what I mean? The media capital of Earth. And when somebody points a big spotlight on you and you don't get to talk and they just keep saying the same thing over and over again, people think it might be true. And you're not even allowed to respond. And that's what we're talking about today, is police overreach, government overreach, and how it affects you. We're looking really at how this is going to affect you if you're public, or even if you're not public anymore. What can somebody do to accuse you? And part of the effort that these two have made, that have put themselves through a particular hell for 2 years, when maybe it could have gone by a while ago, is they don't want it to happen to you, other people. And that puts yourself at extra peril. So do we think, Mercy and Joe, that this is going to have some kind of positive impact, hopefully, for the public in the future?
Well, we very much hope so. And we both feel that we have been put into a position where we have no choice but to become educators and activists for issues like this. What's been really heartbreaking, aside from our own personal situation, is the number of people who have contacted us privately, which numbers in the dozens, both people we know very well and somewhat, more peripherally, telling us, please don't talk about this publicly, but the same thing happened to me. It took me 2 or 3 years to get it cleared up. Eventually, the claimant recanted, or they were exposed as having lied. But in the process, I lost my house because I had to mortgage it to pay for my legal fees, etc. Insane stories of people that we know really well, and we had no idea it ever happened. We just knew, oh, they used to own a house and now they're renting. I wonder why. False accusations over and over again. And I want to just back up, and this is a kind of a technological issue that because I'm not the expert that Jeff Fischbach is, so this was news to me. And perhaps it'll be news to some of the listeners. There are easily available apps listed at the top of the, Apple iTunes store that you can purchase and create any sort of fake interaction, very believable visually messages between yourself and anyone of your choosing. You can replicate the person's account so that it is indistinguishable from their actual account. And if you create those fake messages and take a screenshot, or a photo of a screenshot, in the case of what happened to Joe, you can show that. And these are promoted in the description as fool your friends that you're having a conversation with a celebrity. Pretend that a celebrity sent you a photo. Ooh. That was the evidence that was presented in Joe's case. And The most frustrating part was it was so easily and quickly available to prove or disprove by just asking the accuser, hey, could you open the app and show these to us live? And that was never done by two different law enforcement departments. In addition to that, the original photographs that were supplied to us 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, in April of 2022, were very obviously, as I put that, photoshopped. I naively thought at the time that you needed to actually Photoshop such things, not that you could do it in about 5 seconds.
Oh, that's so 1980s.
Right, I know. I'm just stuck. I'm stuck. I mean, I'm wearing a choker today, guys. I'm really in the 90s. I just can't. I mean, that's my style-y. Sorry. But yeah, that I foolishly said, well, guys, these are photoshopped. That was almost 2 years ago that I, with no technological expertise really to speak of, a 12-year-old could have noticed this, and our minds just boggled. How could this possibly get to the point where it was a case filed with, the supposedly very proficient Los Angeles District Attorney's Office? It was suspicious and inscrutable. I'm going to stop now because I'll go on forever.
No, you pointed out something that I wasn't aware of, that these apps are available and they can do that
Oh,
in
yes.
just a matter of
And they
minutes.
can be used against anyone at all. You don't have to be a celebrity to fall prey to this.
And here's the interesting, we had no idea about these apps.
Nope.
Absolutely no idea. Like, I was one of those really idiotic people that thought, during a certain recent presidency, people creating
Fake
like
tweets.
fake tweets with this particular president, blah, 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 And Jeff, let me know. He said, oh, there are apps that can do that.
We were like, what?
What do you mean? And he said, hold on for a second. About 5 minutes later, he sends me a photo, and it looks like a conversation. I think it was it between me and Dana, I think, or something?
Actually, I think I made a photo where she apologized for faking her allegations, something like that.
And he sent it
and
to
I sent it to the attorney, and the attorney said, "Oh my God, where'd you get this?"
It fooled our attorney, who's a brilliant guy with a ton of decades of experience in the legal system and incredibly highly regarded. If you're not a specialist in this thing, and that's why Jeff Fishback, thank you for saving our lives. If we didn't have his guidance and his knowledge and expertise, I shudder to think where we would be.
Well, this is a really important piece of information, and I will naturally make a disclaimer. Don't download this app. Don't be naughty. But do know that these are out there, and this could happen to you. And that's why this is so relevant today. This would have been a different kind of story 5-10 years ago. But in a world of AI, in a world of this kind of deceit, where anybody anywhere can do anything, and it looks so real, and without having someone like a Jeff Fishback as an investigative, as a forensic specialist to be able to break this down and find out if it's real or not, you get something like the LAPD or whoever it is, just hungry as hell. This asks a question you probably don't know the answer. I certainly don't. But why the lust of the DA and the LA? Why were they so like tails wagging like spaniels running toward a water bowl filled with vodka? Like, seriously.
Who wants to handle that? Because we do know the answer.
Jeff.
Go for it, Jeff.
Jeff.
And I want to be very, very clear up front. Much like the case that the current DA told me he was filing, these are very circumstantial allegations. I have no forensic proof. Well, I have a little forensic proof of what I'm saying. So I do want to be very careful that I'm not going out and disparaging anyone. But the original DA in the case, we discovered in a very interesting way, had a relationship what is it, 1 or 2 degree of separation relationship with Joe before the case was ever filed. So what had happened was, at a certain point after I was hired, I got an emergency call that Joe was being brought into court for a hearing to have his bail revoked, and he was going to be, they would be separated, and he'd have to handle the rest of the case possibly from behind bars. And it was apparently based on a statement from someone who claimed that Joe had communicated with him socially in violation of the court's order that he could not, which really seems like a very small issue. Even then, not just looking back, but even then, a really small issue. And the first thing I asked Joe was, let's start by figuring out who this could even be, because the DA isn't going to make such an allegation without some sort of proof. They've got to bring something in. Who could you have possibly communicated with? And Joe almost immediately figured out that a friend of his online, more of an associate, Joe, I guess, more than a friend, had made a joke that he thought was funny, and he wrote "ha ha," I think, in response. Yeah, yup. Okay, yup. That's it. Just one word. And that it was that must have been it. And so I insisted that obviously they would need to bring him in as a witness, and let's see how they could really make a real case out of that. At that point, we had tactically decided that we weren't going to let the DA's office know that I was part of the case. Just strategically let them make a few mistakes before they know that I'm watching. And they went into court without me, and he didn't show up to testify. And instead, the DA, who had been late that day, shows up with a document that was signed literally minutes, I think, before the hearing.
We were sitting in the hallway when the document was created.
Yeah, so it's right there, right then and there, and it was a declaration from the individual that Joe thought it would be from, claiming exactly what she claimed. The issue with it was when we were dealing with how to deal with this. One of the things that we figured out was that he did state, I won't say it was stated in the document that he got this information from the media. And the first thing we did is we started searching the media to figure out when the media became aware that Joe was not allowed to participate in social media. And what we discovered was that press release was made after the date that he claims he was aware. And all of a sudden, pieces started to fall apart. We started to do a lot of frankly, just Googling. And ultimately, we managed to find a connection between the DA and this individual, a personal connection between the DA and this individual, who also happens to have a personal connection with Joe Gatt. And then all the chips started to fall, is that the right term?
Fallen they have. And thanks to you, resolved, fixed, and made clear as we're still untangling this thing. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to talk to Joe Gatt and Mercy Malek about their professional career and how this ordeal has impacted it with job losses, reputational damage, and how they plan to reclaim their career and move forward.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you. We are talking to Joseph Gatt, known for Thor, for Star Trek, for having an assortment of TV series, video games. He is the victim of a fraudulent claim of an online dalliance with a minor. Was a minor at the time, now is a major, except a majorly embarrassed person thanks to their forensic investigator, Jeff Fishbach, a trial strategist with expertise in technology who's also working on a major federal case for cryptocurrency right now. He's in Washington, D.C. Joseph Gatt, along with his partner, Mercy Malek, also an actor and fitness and dance coach. They are in Los Angeles. Let me ask you two about your lives now. The ordeal of job losses, reputational damage, and how you two are planning to reclaim your careers and move forward.
Sure.
Such an easy question, I know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. What a great question.
I'm just wondering, Cary, before we get to that particular thing, I think it's really important, especially with everything that we're talking about, that Jeff finishes, the story regarding the DA and what happened there, because it's pretty. I think it's really important that the public know what seems to be normal practice by the LADA's office.
Great. We've got about 5 minutes, so
I'll nutshell it. Basically, what we found out was that sent a PI that works with me over to speak to the individual that signed it. He made it very clear that he didn't write the document. And he didn't want to sign the document, and he was against the document, and acknowledged that he did not know, other than the DA told him to look for anything that could help her with her case against him. What we know is that she had competitive interests opposite Joe Gatt. We know that they competed for the same, not specifically against each other in Joe's other career, racing cars, but she also races cars. She is effectively in competition for the same um, sponsorships, of which Joe had quite a few before. And it's a small competitive community. So there were some real obvious things. She should have disclosed immediately a conflict of interest when she was given the case and moved it over to another DA. And look, we got another DA, and this DA dropped the case.
And Harrison, I just want to circle back to one thing to make it clear. There is an applicability universally to this particular topic we're talking about right now, or at least for Los Angelinos, because as we have told this story of perjury suborned by an LA DDA, without exception, every legal person we've mentioned it to, every attorney we've mentioned it to, has gone, oh yeah, they do that all the time. Oh yeah, it's common practice
I'm going to translate lying.
Yes, to submit perjured statements to the court in support of convicting people guilty, innocent, doesn't matter. Lie to the court and it's considered acceptable in Los Angeles. I don't know how it works in any other jurisdiction in the US, but I think the public would be interested in knowing that if you're ever charged with a crime, whether you had any association to it or none whatsoever, if the DDA chooses to file a perjured statement, it's considered common practice. That's something that as a society, I really don't think we should tolerate.
That's not a secret. Maybe outside the court, that might be a secret.
It was to us.
Yeah, for me, for 3 decades, that's not a secret. I've been reminded over and over and over again that law enforcement is allowed to lie if they believe they're doing so in pursuit of the truth.
Sort of like when the News Corporation, also known as Fox, formerly, well, it was Rupert Murdoch's wonderful invention, through an act of Congress, they deregulated the news and said it only needs to be close to the truth. You just need to be aiming for it. Maybe it's not true, it's okay. And that allowed that network to flourish amidst a bunch of lawsuits. So we see the same thing now on individuals, yet all of us ride in the fantasy that we have all these wonderful protections thanks to the founding daddies. But LA somehow has circumvented that. And again, people don't even know who the mayor is, who the city council is. It's one of those towns in the world, the size that it is, where nobody knows who's running anything. So how do you even know how the system works? But you guys are letting us know up front, we'd better be careful. That means, do we now need to worry about our own text messages and just basic digital communications?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, but it's worse than that. You don't have to worry about your own. This is the problem. You don't have to worry about your own at all. You can take care of yourself and not send out anything that would be embarrassing or illegal, because someone could do it for you, and you don't even need the app anymore. Thanks to AI today, I can put you anywhere I'd like to put you. The more photographs, in fact, this is a problem that is more unique to Hollywood, and Hollywood should really be afraid right now. I really mean this. The more photographs and the more sound bites exist of you online, the more accurately I can recreate you and have you do anything I want. If you're a person who has very few or no photographs online, it's very difficult to do that. So Hollywood and any celebrity, any politician, anybody who has a real public presence should be afraid right now where we are. The sad part to me, and this is why I was so interested in participating in this, is that I have actually been a fan of LAPD forensics for quite some time. I've spent days inside of what I believe to be the second most sophisticated lab outside of the FBI that we've paid for in California. Taxpayers paid for in Los Angeles. They have all the tools to have solved this case years ago before they ever went into his house. And they didn't use a single one of them. They took a picture that was given to them by a child. A photograph.
And hence the political motivations, the jealousies, the personal axes to grind, all of that seems like a TV show and not like reality, but it is the reality, which means if it's happened to Joe Gatt, it's happening to other people. We just haven't heard about it yet. Quick question here, Jeff Fishback. So with AI and faking people being somewhere, saying something, there really is no public cure yet. People like you that have these exquisite skill sets, we look to you. I mean, really, where does one go? Is there an app that fixes what a fake app has done? Is there a competitive app?
No, there is a lot of discussion about apps that do that. I have to tell you, it's a double-edged sword because those are also used because their accuracy is so low. I now have students or families who are calling me because their kids are being accused of using AI to generate schoolwork, and those apps aren't accurate there. The only real thing that we can do is we need to count on and we need to push. And this is why I love what I do. We need to continue to turn up the fire on our representatives and our own police departments, our own DAs by way of election to make sure that they use the tools that they have and that they oversee their own departments and make sure that they're doing the actual job using the forensic tools that they have. Because in this case, had they demanded that there was real forensic proof, it wasn't there. It didn't exist. And this
We've
case
got
would have gone
about
away.
2 more minutes, and I'm sorry to jump in like this, but let's finish with how can we hold the DA accountable? I imagine you guys have a next step so that this person just doesn't get away with it. Oh, oops, I lied. Oh, well, what's for dinner? No, there's probably a bigger plan here.
I would say just the first step, and Harrison, you've done such a service today by bringing us on the show, and thank you for your very incisive questioning. It has really been a pleasure to be able to really cut to the quick of it. Right now, the first step is asking for equity in media representation. Joe was #1 trending worldwide when the arrest happened, right? And he was #1 in Malaysia that week. The news of Game of Thrones after arrested was absolutely everywhere. There has been one print outlet to cover the story of the charges being dropped. We've emailed and contacted and called, and all of these dozens and dozens of major publications who are so quick to announce the arrest have been crickets on the charges being dropped. So garnering support to actually hold people accountable requires that people know that it occurred. And for most of the public, they don't know that these charges have been dropped, let alone all of the malfeasance that went into the case existing in the first place, which, as Jeff mentioned, has cost the taxpayers a ridiculous amount of money. So people of Los Angeles, in addition to being potentially in danger yourself of falling into the trap into which we unknowingly found ourselves, you've also paid for this monetarily. So the responsibility of
and will continue to pay.
And will continue, right. So the responsibility of the media to let people know the end of the story, not just the beginning of the story, is quite weighty and not being responded to right now, except for yourself, Harrison, KPFK, the Daily Mail, and a couple of other, it's like a 1 to 1,000 coverage at this point. So for us to be able to, as I said, garner the support to hold those accountable who should be, people need to know about it first. So thank you for being one of the few who are working to actually disseminate truth, and truth that's important societally, not just to us personally.
Wow, that was beautiful. I'm going to use that as a promo.
Guys, sometimes I just get on fire for the cause, and
that's why I just sit here and just shut up sometimes. Just like, Mercy, over to you.
Descend from Fox TED Talk is complete. Thank you.
We are regrettably out of time, and I apologize so much, but I just want to, for those of you who have joined us, maybe joined us a little late, we've been talking to Joseph Gatt, known for Thor, for Star Trek, for assortment of TV series, video games, and he was the victim of a fraudulent claim. Fraudulent, proved by court, it's dismissed, it's done, it's finished. But it was an online dalliance with a minor, never did happen. Led to the destruction of a popular career, which he's now rebuilding. Thank God that he's innocent, that the word is now getting out. Joined by his partner, Mercy Malik, a multi-talented actor, fitness and dance coach. And alongside them is another new best friend, forensic investigator Jeff Fishback, a trial strategist with expertise in technology, solving crimes involved in a major court case right now regarding the future of cryptocurrency. That will affect you too. We've learned about apps that can do deep fakes. We've learned about all kinds of stuff. Do re-listen to this. You can get a free newsletter, our free newsletter, at rethinkingheroes.com. You'll be able to see the whole video of this, and it will help make more sense and use it as school. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I appreciate it very much.
Preventing truth decay. Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.